What's going on, guys? I'm back with another video, actually a knife video, and it's even on the topic that we've discussed making videos on in the past, which is sharpening. And I'm using that term a little broadly here because what I realized after I made a post the other day on my Instagram that I don't think I talk about stropping enough, and I don't think it's talked about enough in the community. And that's purely from the standpoint of the benefits of stropping, which would be, you need to maintain your knife. So you're maintaining your knife more than quote unquote fixing it. And B, you're conserving a lot of the steel on your knife. C, you're going to save yourself some time because if you maintain your knife on a strop regularly, it's going to take you less time to get it back to decently sharp. Now, it's probably never going to be exactly as sharp as it was when it came off of those stones fresh, or stones and strop if you do a stone strop combination, but it will get you back to a workable edge. And you can do that a few times over before you need to take it back to a stone. Again, unless you have any type of damage or you've allowed the edge to get very dull. So what is stropping? I guess I should have started there. And this is going to be a very base level, kind of foundational type of conversation. If you want something more in depth, I would definitely check out Shawn, Big Brown Bear on YouTube. Lots of freehanding content over there. Lots of talk on different stones and compositions of stones, etc., etc. Or I would check out Roman, KKnives Switzerland here on YouTube, and he does pretty much everything. He does guided systems. He does freehanding. He uses natural stones. He uses synthetic stones. He strops. If you want to know about sharpening, Roman can answer your questions, as well as Shawn. Shawn just is a little more focused on freehanding and freehanding style stones. So anyway, with that being said, I ended up bringing this knife home after I used it to break down a basketball goal, the box of a basketball goal, and I used it for a few weeks. It wasn't dull, but it wasn't super dull, but it was dull enough where it wasn't cutting the way that I would like it to cut. So I brought it back, put it on a strop, and all the strop is some type of surface that has a very fine abrasive that is going to allow you to realign the edge and fix any minor deformation of the edge. So basically what you're doing, if you have an edge and say you've cut with it and it's kind of rounded, or it has some micro chipping, some very, very fine chipping, you might put it on that strop and it'll straighten it out some. It's not going to straighten it out to the extent of putting an actual new edge on. However, it will make the knife sharp enough for you to use without having to remove that additional steel from your knife. Again, and saving time, etc. So my specific preferred method now, I've done lots of different things. I've taken edges all the way to mirror polish. And now what I'm doing is I pretty much sharpen my knives to a 600 grit diamond finish. And then I'm using this Ken Schwartz 1 micron CBN diamond spray. And you can see here, this is the diamonds. Well, it's pretty much in solution now, but sometimes some of it hangs around. I just shook the bottle up. Anyway, and you just shake it up. I'm going to put this paper towel down because I don't want to get my table dirty. You just put it down. This is a smooth leather strop, and you just spray it a few times. There's no certain amount of times that I spray it or anything like that. There's no set amount of time that I reapply. I believe I've had this strop for maybe, I don't know, a year or so. And I've had this solution for about a year. You can see about how much I've used. And I reapply here and there. It dries very quickly. It leaves behind that gray film that you see. Now, obviously, the darker colored stuff, that's actually steel that's embedded on the strop. I do have a video on cleaning strops that you can check out on my sharpening playlist, but we can get into that later. So what I do is I like to start at the tip, and I'm gonna make a separate video, but what I did was I started at the tip and I followed through to the heel, like so. And I do this a few times. I don't count, I don't really time it. You know, I do a few passes and then I come back, and because this has an asymmetrical bevel, which here I'll show you that. On this side, you can see that there's a pretty decently sized bevel. However, on this side, let's clean this off some. On this side, you can see there is not really a secondary bevel. Anywhere you see one, like back here, that's where me freehand sharpening as a novice, I kind of did the sharpening and the angle. So you only really have to worry about this one side on an Emerson knife. So again, I like to go tip to heel. You want to pull the knife across the strop, and I'm going to do a more in-depth video on stropping, just stropping specifically. But this, I'll just show you what I did. And then I just do a few passes on the other side. And after doing that, I think you can still see here from my video the other day, it's shaving sharp. So I think you can see that it's just cutting hair right off of my arm. Now that kind of leads me into another discussion. We always talk about steel and hardness and steel types and all of that kind of stuff. This is one of the areas where you can tell how good your steel is, or how well it has been processed, I guess is a better way to say it. Typically what you'll see in a steel that has a process that has been well done is when it comes off of the stone. First of all, when you're sharpening your knife, the burr that forms is going to break off pretty cleanly. And again, if you don't know what all these terms are, we can get into that later. You can check out some of my other sharpening videos, or you can go to those guys that I told you about. The burr comes off cleanly and easily, and the knife feels almost like sticky sharp. So when you run your finger along the edge, you're kind of pushing down like this. You'll feel it just kind of wants to grab your finger. You just want to pull it down, and it'll very light pressure. It'll grab your finger. And when you need to strop it, it strops back pretty easily. The edge gets very crisp. It just responds very well to a strop. Those are the characteristics of a knife that has been processed well. Again, that's why a lot of us push the issue on learning how to sharpen a knife and getting out and using your knives and really getting a feel for them. Because once you start doing these things, you'll see what steels work best for you. You'll see what steels have a good process on them. You'll see what steels may not have a good process on them. And unfortunately, the sad fact of it is you're going to realize that a lot of knives out here are not treated the best they could. And again, I know there's a lot of conversation around that. I'm speaking from a production standpoint, and I'll give you a perfect example. Have you ever had a knife, whether you sharpen or you send your knives out to be sharpened, you use it for a little while and it's like the edge it dulls pretty much after a few uses. That 9 times out of 10 is burnt steel on the edge, and that typically happens because manufacturers dry grind their knives very aggressively, and that overheats the edge of the knife and up into the blade, and it ruins the temper, which causes your edge to go dull. And it just, again, more technical talk. If you want to talk more about that, we can later. But if you want to hear more about that right now, you can go over to those 2 channels I referenced. And what you'll find is as you sharpen the knife over time and as you remove some of that steel, you get back some of that edge retention. You get back some of that edge stability. A lot of guys will talk about, you'll see it a lot with Spydercos. My brand new knife, I pulled it out. All I did was cut a piece of paper, cut a piece of cardboard. I cut this, I cut that, and the edge chipped. that is an overheated edge. Your edge has been overheated in the process. So guys, I hope this was helpful. I hope I didn't ramble too much. Up next is going to be a video that entails a little bit more about just general stropping and everything. So stay tuned for that. I'll probably drop it on Monday, Columbus Day 2020. If you're watching this in the future. But I appreciate you guys watching, and remember, a lazy man carries a dull knife.